When you think back about when you were just starting to try and improvise, you'd heard Train and you had that epiphany, and now you're going to try and figure this thing out. Maybe talk a little about those moments you kind of saw progression. Because I think getting better on something is not a straight linear curve. They're stair steps. So maybe I'm asking, what were some of those stairs for you?
Well, you're right. And I was, well, self-taught. I mean, I come from, quote, the streets compared to the academy. We didn't have a jazz school in New York City at that time, believe it or not, in the 60s. And I knew I wanted to stay in New York. I'm from New York. I lived in New York. But I knew that I didn't want to leave, and there was nowhere to go for school. So I learned by myself, by trial and error, by asking friends, watching piano players' hands move, et cetera, et cetera. So that was not definitely because of that, if only that, it was not a straight line, it's for sure. And I think one thing has to do with, first of all, lack of information, or information that was put out there that might not have been 100% accurate. In other words, it's when you don't have school to guide you, for better or worse, you make your own trajectory. And when you make your own trajectory, there are two things. One is it's you, you're individual, and there'll be nobody who does it like you. On the other hand, because you're doing it mostly on your own, you will have holes. So those holes, that step ladder that you're talking about, what happened here and there, where I would say I'm not making progress. This particular musical thing I was looking at has run its course, blah, blah, blah. And also, most important, confidence that you were good enough to get up there and play with whoever you chose to play with, or whoever chose you to play with. And that is a big curve, because that goes from the top to the bottom pretty quick. It can happen overnight. And we have, a lot of things that affect the personality, stimulants that you might turn to, prayer that you might turn to, etc. We were in a very experimental mood in the 60s, which I'll put down as my training ground. There were a lot of ways to try to do things, as we all know from what happened in the 60s. So it definitely was not a straight line. I would imagine that if you're young now, you go to music school, you go to North Texas, where you were, or whatever, or Arizona, or whatever, that you have, if you at all care and at all could take directions, you have a pretty straight path. I mean, you might not feel that way about it, but you're being presented with the material in an orderly, sequential way, which is not true for people like me. I learned this as compared to learning that, and then there was a hole created. For example, I've never written a big band chart in my life. Just never have, because I just never took it as a course. I never learned the rules, and there are a lot of things you can learn. Besides creativity, there are like real tools to writing a big band chart. I just never thought I could do it, and I never have done it. If I was in school, I'd probably be writing big band charts from the second semester on. So that's the part of the self-taught regimen that you have to face. Well, it was not a straight line, but on the other hand, there was a lot of room for individuality, because it was not cookie cutter stuff. School creates cookie cutter mentality, where you do everything that's the same as everybody else, and they're all very good now. The level is very high, so there's a lot less individuality because of this way of teaching now. Everybody gets the same material. I don't care if you're in Arizona or New Jersey State College. Jazz is jazz, and you get it. It's like classical. You're gonna get it in the same order, and you're gonna get the same information. Possibly some places better than others, but you're gonna definitely get that. So your job is to follow what they tell you, and you get out of school and you have a very complete training. Which I don't know your age or nothing, or what, but I envy the training that my students get. They're getting me. I didn't get me. I didn't have me talk. I had me, sitting at the bar talking to, Charles Lloyd. Do you give lessons? Yes, I do. He'll show up tomorrow. And I spent the next year every Sunday with him. Very ad hoc, very, like that, which again creates room for spontaneity, but also creates a lot of holes in your training.